Doesn't that just make you feel all warm and fuzzy when you see something like that? Don't you just know that they've really got our best interests at heart and that there's forces out there that are working to make sure we're looked after? It's kind of freaky, folks. You know, when you see that sort of stuff, you can see how long they've had this plan in the making. You know, World Economic Forum rolling out their whole plan to restructure the world, the Great Reset that we need to combat this terrible corona crisis and the terrible state of police brutality that we find ourselves in. The terrible state of pollution, you know, everything that these people who run the World Economic Forum have done, and now they're offering us their solution, which is to basically lock everybody into a smart prison. The smart prison that I've been telling you they're rolling out for so long. You know, and to think that they've put this plan in place just kind of now as a response to COVID, I mean, you have to have rocks in your head, folks. The response was already there. They just needed the crisis in order to trigger the response. It's all about triggers, folks. You know, COVID is simply the trigger that they needed to roll out everything that they needed. This is what I've been saying for months since this COVID crisis happened. Problem, reaction, solution, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they do it. Something else that I said, problem, reaction, solution, was that the protests, they needed the protests in order to justify the spike in COVID cases and to justify the second wave. They're saying there's a spike in COVID cases in Victoria now, and in fact they're bringing in the army to go door to door to test people, to invite people to be tested for COVID.
We have 1,917 coronavirus cases in Victoria. That's 33 more than yesterday. That's 33 more than yesterday. That's 33 more than yesterday. There will literally be hundreds and hundreds, indeed the entire team is 1,000 strong, door knockers out there talking to the community, inviting them to come and get a free test, whether they be symptomatic or asymptomatic. That'll be done in lots of new ways. For instance, we have ambulances and other vans that will literally be at the end of people's streets. So they will be invited to come and get a test, and they'll only have to travel 50 or 100 metres in order to complete that test.
Interesting test too, you know, I mean, we know that these tests don't work. They even say that if you test negative, it may not really mean negative. If you test positive, it may not really mean positive. So if that's the case, what is the point of the tests? Plus, the mere fact that the company that's conducting the tests is a company called Ipso Mori. Interesting. Ipso mori just happens to translate to they die. That's very confidence-inspiring. Give me a test by they die to see what happens when I have the test. I mean, they're pretty blatant about this stuff, folks. They don't mind telling you. But yeah, the army going door to door in Victoria, I mean, just an excuse to put the military on the ground, folks. That's what they do. But there's outrage over thousands of people refusing the tests. We had some interesting reports on the test. There was a woman contacted me, a nurse, and she said that she actually, her brother tested positive and then had the test again and tested negative. And she couldn't understand that, and she sent a couple of tests off to get analysed, a couple of swabs, but she didn't actually swab anyone. She just sent the swabs off and put a couple of dummy names on there, and they came back as positive tests. So she's wondering whether some of the tests are actually infected with whatever it is they're calling COVID-19 to begin with, whether that's where some of the positive results are coming from. Hard to say. But there's all sorts of weirdness with these tests. I even wonder if it's going to be the people who get the COVID tests who end up, you know, the people who are caught up in the second wave, whether they're doing something to infect these people with the tests. You have to wonder whether there's something like that going on. I mean, I don't know. I can't help but question anything the government wants to do because I just don't trust these people. But like I said, you know, there's no indication that this pandemic is real at all. Actually, and if people are, and they're saying, of course, that's why people are refusing the test, because many people are saying it's a conspiracy theory and that, you know, it isn't going to affect them, and how wrong they are. And the minister even said, well, look, we can see the dead bodies and we can see the death toll clearly on our televisions. But that's the thing, you can see it on the television, but you can't see it anywhere in real life. And, you know, you can see it on the television, it doesn't make it real. I mean, you can see the Avengers on the television as well. You can see Harry Potter on the television, it doesn't make any of it real.
From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual.
I didn't quite get that. Can I hear that one more time? I'm serious. I could not tell what you just said.
From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual.
Still didn't quite get that, but Dr. Samadi went to medical school. He's been listening to doctors all of his life. Doctor, I believe the headline from the World Health Organization is asymptomatic people are not infectious. They're not going to spread the disease. Is that what the WHO is saying?
Yes, that's correct, Greg. Look, you and I have been going at this since February of this year. We've covered more than hundreds of these segments on Newsmax TV. The most important segment about what we're going to be talking about COVID is probably tonight, because they're taking a 360-degree turn, and WHO is announcing, and this is a big news, that asymptomatic people out there are not contagious. Remember, because we didn't know who would be passing this virus or not, we made everybody do something called social distancing. This is a new word that you've heard of it, and it came to our life a few months ago. We made everybody across the board to wear masks. At the beginning, we said if you have symptoms, you wear the mask to protect others, and then we gave in because CDC and everybody kept changing back and forth. We also made everybody to go for testing. We need 300 million tests the next day, or else we cannot reopen our country. And guess what? This is very important. It's a breaking news that if you are not symptomatic and you don't have any symptoms of fever, chills, shortness of breath, or any of those symptoms we've spoken about, the risk of passing it on to other people and being contagious is very rare. And studies like this comes from a very accurate tracing in countries like Singapore, contact tracing, And it's too bad that these researchers are not, the papers are not making it to Lancet, and mainstream media is not covering to the extent. This is probably one of the biggest news that we've had since coronavirus outbreak.
Now, I just want to leave you with this one last thing right here. This is taken from Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. I do not know if this is true or not. I can't verify this, but this is very interesting. It says, I have to get this off my chest. I'm a healthcare worker with some oversight of 2 nursing homes in Maryland. An associate of one of the nursing homes called me one day to let me know that she was contacted by Governor Larry Hogan's COVID task force team and that mandatory testing for all patients and staff was required and wanted to set up a time to come test everyone. Get ready, guys. This isn't just going to be relegated to nursing homes. It's not just relegated to Australia. They want everybody tested for some reason. My associate told the gentleman on the phone that we had no positive cases and it wasn't necessary to come and test. The man on the phone snickered and said, you don't have it yet, but you will. She set up the time for testing, much to her dismay. She immediately called to relay this information about her convo because I was already seeing a pattern of the spread of COVID based on testing. I told her not to let them in the facility, but we were powerless as they sent the National Guard. We did the testing and had multiple positives of patients and staff right off the bat, despite having 0 cases or sick patients prior. Within days, that's within days of the testing, patients were getting severely sick and dying, practically wiped out one whole unit in our facility. So before the testing, they were fine. According to this person, after the testing, people were dropping dead or getting severely sick. The almost identical situation happened at my other facility. 0 cases, mandatory testing, unexpected positives, people dying. Like I said, I don't know if this is true or not, but I do know one thing. According to the Minneapolis Department of Health, if you get a negative result or a positive result, you still don't know if you have COVID-19. These aren't my opinions. These are what you can pull up on the internet. As a matter of fact, I will leave this link in the description and in the pinned comment for you so you can read this for yourself. They're going to make 100 million of these tests every single month. They're actually thinking about ramping it up and having people test every single day. They're actually throwing the idea on the table that you have to test every single day before you go into work. If you test positive, you can't work that day. And mainstream media already admits that it throws 80% false positives. Just throwing that out there, guys. Share this video with everybody you know. If you want to support this channel, one of the best ways you can support it is by liking this video and sharing it with everybody you know everywhere you can on social media. I'm combating corporate censorship. They have billions, I don't. They can easily get out their message, I can't, so I depend on you.
Deaf and dumb thespians take the silent stages with their cobweb throats. They can't sing any notes, so the audience begins dispersing. The actors get pissed, they start cursing. They're tired of rehearsing. They're ready to do the damn show. They're ready to go. You know what I mean? Fuck the quarantine, fuck COVID-19, fuck a fucking vaccine. Social engineering at the center stage. About to go full circle when we turn the page. Miss Deborah Burks, you old bitch, putting COVIDs on obits and certificates, it's ridiculous. We should be enraged and irate at our newfound fate and change the current state of mind controls as Mr.